The persistent electricity crisis in South Africa has now, of course, is now having a severe knock on the country's poultry industry, leaving many of the operators worried about the situation. Chicken production in the Rainbow Nation has also been disrupted by the high cost of fuel and inflation. Thus, consumers are now shouldering the burden. Now, the prevailing situation could hamper investment opportunities which can trigger food insecurity in the country. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Nhlanhla Mashenza and his partners produce up to 6,000 chickens a month for mostly small retailers. But higher input costs and more frequent load shedding is impeding their production.
Your input cost, it drives it up and doesn't go down because we then need to use things like generators. We then need to look into other things like different types of heating system. We then need to look at diesel prices or petrol prices, whatever generator or solar that you are using. We are now adding into the actual cost, which is already high. Feed has went up, diesel has went up.
The load shedding has become more frequent in the last year, hindering farming production across the agricultural sector.
We need to make sure that the actual coop is warm enough. On the day of arrival, there needs to be light in the coop so that the chickens actually have to be fed right along hours of the day. 24 hours, the chicken needs to be eating and it needs the sunlight. So that alone affects the growth of the chicken. If the water that we have from the borehole, if we don't have electricity, we cannot pump water into the actual jojos and the coop itself.
Prices have risen across the food chain. Imported materials are more expensive. The cost of transport has also risen. Inflation at the factory gate remains elevated, which means these costs are being passed down from producer to retailer to consumers.
It comes down to affordability, yes, of the machinery running the plants, having to have backup generators running, manufacturing plants. That's not sustainable. But affordability also goes down to the consumer, okay? When food price goes up, they eat less. And I think that shows this looming crisis, because what it's doing is it's actually hitting us at all levels.
Aid organizations have already raised the alarm around food insecurity. The worsening power crisis is stifling investment and is likely to have long-term ramifications.
It's become harder and harder to run an industrial type business in South Africa. Every time the power stops in that factory, you're down for an hour, maybe 2 hours. The cost of that, the loss of production, is massive. The thing that we don't talk about often enough is the reduction in future industrialization in our country because of the lack of power. So investors saying, I'm not going to invest.
There's still no end in sight for Eskom's power woes. South Africans will have to contend with the erratic power supply for a few more years. Many businesses, unfortunately, won't make it.